Someone close to you is about to tell you something they have been carrying for a long time. And when they finally say it out loud, it is going to line up perfectly with what your gut has been trying to tell you for months. Before we go any further, just pause for a second and take a real breath. Slow it down. Because what you are about to hear is not made up. It is not a coincidence. And it is definitely not something you invented in your own head out of hope or fear. You did not talk yourself into this feeling. You did not blow small things out of proportion. You did not misread signals that were never really there. The truth is the opposite. Your inner sense of knowing has been trying to get your attention for a long, long time, even in the moments when you did your best to ignore it, brush it off, or convince yourself it meant nothing. And very soon, someone is going to speak the exact words that finally match everything you have quietly felt inside for so long. That feeling showed up in you long before you had any language for it. It arrived before logic caught up, before you had a single piece of evidence, before any real conversation ever happened between you. It was just a quiet awareness sitting underneath everything else, like a low hum you couldn't quite explain to anyone, maybe not even to yourself. It felt like an invisible thread pulling at you, an odd combination of heaviness in your chest and warmth at the same time, something that didn't fit neatly into any single emotion. There were days their name would drift into your thoughts out of nowhere with no obvious trigger. There were also stretches of silence between the two of you that somehow said more than actual conversation ever could. You tried everything to talk yourself out of noticing it. You kept busy. You told yourself you were imagining connections that weren't there, reading meaning into things that meant nothing. But real intuition doesn't scream at you or force its way in. It waits. It's patient. It simply stands by until the truth is ready to step forward on its own timeline, and yours has been remarkably patient with you this whole time. Here's the simple reason behind all of this. The other person has been sitting on something significant, and it didn't just appear out of nowhere overnight. It has been building quietly, sometimes painfully, inside them for a while now. If they stayed quiet, it wasn't because they didn't care. In many cases, it was the exact opposite. They cared more deeply than they knew how to express or manage. They were scared of choosing the wrong words, scared of being turned away, scared of shifting the entire dynamic between you into something unfamiliar. Scared of admitting to feelings that felt bigger than they were prepared to control. And yet, this whole time, they were paying far closer attention to you than you probably gave them credit for. They picked up on the subtle shifts in your mood, your energy, the small changes in how you carried yourself. They held on to tiny details about you, the kind most people never even notice, let alone remember. There were multiple moments where they almost let it out, where the words were right there, and then fear stepped in and pulled them back before anything could be said. But fear only holds the line for so long. Eventually, it loses its grip. Even without a single direct word passing between you, your intuition still picked up on the tension they were carrying inside. You could sense that something between the two of you was left hanging, like an unfinished sentence that never got its last word. That's exactly why the space between you always felt charged, unresolved, like there was more sitting underneath the surface than either of you was saying out loud. No matter how much time passed, no matter how far apart life pulled you, your intuition kept clocking the small things. Their hesitation, the way emotional distance would suddenly soften into closeness again without warning, the subtle, indirect ways they kept finding to stay connected to your life, even when they weren't saying much of anything. You picked up on the tension whenever you were physically near each other, the things left unsaid in otherwise ordinary moments, the way even silence seemed to carry its own kind of message. None of that was confusion, even though it might have felt that way at times. It was truth being held back. And truth that gets suppressed for long enough always finds its way out eventually. Timing plays a much bigger role in this than most people ever give it credit for, and that's part of why this is surfacing right now instead of earlier or later. Something has shifted, either in you, in them, or quite possibly in both of you at the same time. Maybe you started redirecting your energy back toward yourself instead of outward toward them. Maybe you stopped chasing after answers and let go of the need to force clarity into existence. Maybe you chose your own peace over the exhausting cycle of waiting, and you let go of trying to control the outcome. And strangely enough, that release is precisely what opened up room for this truth to finally move in your direction. The moment you stopped needing the answer so badly, the answer started making its own way toward you. This isn't some power move or a game of control anymore. It's simply honesty finally outweighing fear. When it happens, don't expect some grand cinematic moment like you'd see in a movie. It's far more likely to arrive in an ordinary, almost forgettable seeming moment, one that looks completely normal from the outside but carries an emotional weight you won't be able to brush past. It might sound as simple as, "There's something I've been wanting to say to you." Or maybe, "I don't even know why I'm bringing this up now, but I've felt this way for a while." or something like, "You were right the whole time, and honestly, you always were." And in the second those words land, something inside you is going to go still and calm because you'll recognize the truth of it instantly without needing them to explain another word. You won't feel blindsided. You won't feel caught off guard. What you'll feel instead is confirmation. You won't be thinking, "I never saw this coming." You'll be thinking quietly and simply, "I already knew." That calm, grounded reaction settling in your chest is your intuition finally being proven right. Life isn't handing you some brand new surprise here. It's just confirming something your inner voice has understood for a very long time already. What this person is actually admitting to goes far beyond simple romantic feelings on the surface. They're owning up to the fact that they fought against their own emotions, that they struggled to truly let go of you even while pretending on the outside that they already had, and that no amount of physical or emotional distance managed to erase what they felt underneath it all. They're admitting that pretending not to care took a real toll on them, that carrying the silence was heavy on their end too, and that keeping everything bottled up eventually became too much to sustain. This confession isn't just release for them, it's release for you as well. It clears out air that has felt dense and unresolved for a long stretch of time. This moment matters for you far beyond the romantic angle. It's really about relearning how to trust your own perception of things again. The confession brings clarity, validates your intuition, and strengthens your self-trust. Instead of confusion, you gain peace, emotional balance, and the freedom to choose your path with confidence, compassion, and self-respect. It's what keeps you from losing yourself inside someone else's emotions or forgetting what you personally need. Whatever direction this connection ends up taking, it will now be built on actual honesty instead of assumption, and that shift alone is powerful. You might start to notice that you no longer feel the pull to overanalyze every message, every pause in conversation, every small shift in someone's behavior. Your nervous system begins to settle because truth naturally brings stability with it. Even if certain questions remain, they won't feel threatening the way they once did. You'll understand by now that you can handle uncertainty just fine, that you can trust your own sense of timing, and that you don't have to force outcomes to feel secure in yourself. This whole experience also deepens your relationship with yourself. You'll start respecting your own intuition on a much deeper level, not as something mystical or exaggerated, but simply as a quiet, internal guide that has already proven itself trustworthy time and time again. That confidence spreads into other areas of your life too. You'll find yourself listening more closely to your own inner signals. You'll hesitate less when something feels off. You'll move through life with a stronger sense of self-trust. That's one of the biggest gifts this whole experience leaves you with. It teaches you that patience isn't weakness, that silence doesn't always signal absence, and that truth moves according to its own rhythm and timing. As you continue moving forward from here, remember, you're never obligated to rush towards some tidy conclusion or label. You're allowed to take the time you need to actually feel what you feel and to choose whatever aligns with your own peace. None of this is about proving anything to anyone else. It's about honoring what you already know deep down and letting your life unfold with a greater sense of honesty and self-respect. Whatever comes next, you're no longer standing in the dark waiting for something to happen. You're standing fully in your own awareness, and that changes everything. As that awareness settles more deeply into you, a quieter kind of transformation starts taking shape, one you might not notice happening all at once, but will feel gradually in small, meaningful ways over time. You'll start to realize you're no longer operating from a place of fear, whether that's fear of loss or fear of being misunderstood by someone else. Instead, you're moving from a place of genuine self-connection, where your emotions feel steady and your thoughts feel clear. You start to understand this whole experience was never really meant to rush you towards some outcome. It was meant to slow you down enough to actually see yourself clearly. All that waiting, all that sensing, all those moments of doubt tangled up with hope, they were shaping you into someone capable of holding truth without buckling under its weight. You might notice your conversations start feeling lighter, your reactions becoming calmer, and yourself becoming generally less rattled by uncertainty overall. That's because your inner world has finally found some balance. You no longer need constant reassurance from outside sources because you've learned how to reassure yourself from within. You no longer feel that pull to chase clarity because clarity has already taken root inside you. Even if this connection continues to unfold slowly from here, it will do so without the same emotional pressure that used to surround it. And if it ends up going in a different direction entirely, you'll meet that outcome with grace instead of resistance. There's real strength in knowing you'll be okay no matter which way things go, and that strength changes the way you show up in every single interaction you have going forward. You might also notice yourself becoming more genuinely present in daily life, able to enjoy small, ordinary moments without your mind constantly drifting back toward unanswered questions. Your attention returns to your own life, your goals, your creativity, your sense of purpose. That's not because this connection stopped mattering to you. It's because it no longer defines who you are. You're grounded in yourself first, and that creates a much healthier foundation for any relationship, including this one, to actually exist within. Over time, you'll start to see how much this whole experience sharpened your emotional awareness. It taught you how to listen beneath the surface of words, how to trust subtle feelings without needing proof, and how to stay open to connection without abandoning yourself in the process. Those lessons stay with you well after this particular moment has passed. They shape how you love, how you communicate, and how you protect your own peace going forward. You become far more selective with your energy, not out of fear, but out of genuine self-respect. And within that space, whatever is meant to grow between you and someone else will grow naturally, without force and without confusion. You're no longer sitting around waiting for signs or hidden signals. You're simply living in alignment with what you already know to be true. That's where real emotional maturity actually lives. Not in dramatic endings or flawless beginnings, but in a quiet, steady confidence and inner stability. And as you keep moving forward, you carry with you a much deeper trust in life itself, understanding that whatever is true will always eventually surface, and whatever is genuinely meant for you will never ask you to lose yourself in order to receive it. As you keep walking forward with this newfound clarity, you might notice your relationship with time itself starting to shift. You stop feeling rushed by invisible deadlines or pressured by expectations that were never clearly defined in the first place. Instead, you feel present, rooted firmly in the moment you're currently standing in. A quiet confidence starts to follow you around, not the kind that needs to be announced or proven to anyone, but the kind that simply lives in your posture, your tone, and the way you carry yourself through your day. You trust that whatever needs to be said will get said, and whatever needs to unfold will unfold, without you having to force any of it along. That trust allows you to finally rest emotionally, in a way you might not have even realized you needed for a long time. You start to understand that the connection you sensed all along was never meant to consume you. It was meant to wake something up inside you. It showed you exactly how deeply you're capable of feeling, how perceptive you genuinely are, and how strong your inner awareness really is. With that understanding settling in, you stop doubting your own emotional depth and start honoring it instead. You come to recognize that sensitivity was never a weakness, and intuition was never just imagination. Both are forms of intelligence that carried you through uncertainty and delivered you safely into truth. You might also notice you're far less rattled by mixed signals or emotional inconsistency from other people now. Where confusion used to pull you inward, clarity now acts like a filter for you. You start seeing people more clearly for exactly who they are and exactly where they're emotionally capable of meeting you. That doesn't make you cold or detached in any way. It makes you honest with yourself. You let people show you who they genuinely are instead of trying to reshape them or fill in the blanks on their behalf. That kind of self-respect becomes your new baseline. From that place, your choices naturally become cleaner and more aligned with what you actually want. You stop staying in situations just hoping they'll eventually turn into something else. You choose what feels stable, mutual, and emotionally real instead. And if something no longer meets you where you actually are, you're able to let it go without holding on to resentment. This kind of emotional maturity brings a lasting sense of peace that stays with you even during moments of genuine uncertainty. You trust yourself to navigate whatever shows up next. You know you don't need to chase validation or over-explain your own worth to anyone. Your presence alone carries enough truth on its own. As life keeps moving around you, you stay centered, open, and aware. That's the quiet kind of power this whole experience has given you. The power to move forward without fear, to listen without doubt, and to live without ever abandoning the wisdom that's always lived somewhere inside you. As you continue moving through this particular chapter of your life, the understanding you've gained doesn't fade away over time. If anything, it only deepens further. Each day, even during moments that seem completely ordinary, you notice how differently you respond to people, to situations, and to your own emotions. You're no longer swept up into emotional storms as quickly as you used to be, and when real challenges do show up, you meet them with steadiness instead of panic. That's because something inside you has genuinely settled. The constant questioning, the silent wondering, the endless emotional guessing no longer run the show inside your head. You trust yourself enough now to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, and to feel things fully without becoming overwhelmed by what you're feeling. This shift is subtle, but it's genuinely powerful. You'll start to notice your boundaries becoming clearer without you needing to spell them out for anyone. You naturally drift away from what drains you and toward whatever actually nourishes you. You stop feeling guilty for choosing peace over emotional chaos, or for choosing yourself over situations that ask you to shrink in some way. This new way of moving through life doesn't come from closing off your heart. It comes from finally understanding its value. You still care deeply, you still feel things strongly, but you're no longer willing to lose yourself inside uncertainty or emotional imbalance. As time continues to pass, you'll also come to realize that this whole experience taught you something meaningful about patience. Not the passive kind that just waits endlessly with no real purpose, but the kind that observes, learns, and grows while letting life reveal its own truth in its own way. You come to see that the waiting was never really about the other person at all. It was about you becoming emotionally ready to receive clarity without fear attached to it. You were learning how to stand firmly in yourself even during the stretches when answers were delayed. That lesson stays with you and reshapes how you approach everything going forward, from relationships to your own personal goals. You stop forcing outcomes and start trusting timing instead. You come to understand that what shows up too early can't always be held properly, and what shows up too late might not even be needed anymore. Timing, you learn, isn't punishment, and it isn't reward either. It's simply alignment, and you start to respect it rather than fight against it. That respect brings a real sense of ease into your life. You feel less pressure to control every single detail and more willingness to flow with whatever naturally unfolds. You might also notice a new kind of emotional honesty developing within yourself. You allow yourself to feel joy without questioning it, and sadness without judging yourself for it. You no longer suppress your emotions just to appear strong, and you no longer exaggerate them just to be noticed. You simply let them exist and move through you naturally. This kind of emotional balance makes you far more present in your own life. You enjoy conversations more fully, listen more attentively, and speak more honestly. You're no longer trying to read between every line or search for hidden meaning behind everything. You take people at their word and their actions at face value, trusting that whatever is real will show consistency over time. That simplicity brings a real sense of peace. Over time, you might notice other people responding to you differently as well. Some feel calmer being around you. Some feel more open with you. Some might even feel challenged by how grounded you've become, because your presence reflects truths they might not be ready to face within themselves yet. You don't take that personally anymore. You understand now that everyone is on their own individual journey, moving at whatever pace works for them. You no longer feel responsible for fixing, saving, or emotionally carrying anyone else. You offer understanding wherever it's genuinely welcomed and distance wherever it's actually needed. This kind of emotional independence doesn't isolate you at all, it actually strengthens your connections. The relationships that remain in your life start to feel more mutual, more honest, and more respectful. You stop chasing emotional depth in places where it simply can't exist, and you start investing your energy in spaces where it grows naturally instead. You also start to see the real value in silence in a completely new way. Silence no longer feels like rejection or absence to you. It feels like space to breathe, to reflect, and to reconnect with yourself. You're no longer afraid of quiet moments because you trust what lives inside them. You trust yourself enough to sit alone with your own thoughts without needing constant distraction to fill the gap. That inner comfort becomes one of your greatest strengths. It allows you to genuinely enjoy your own company and to enter into connections from a place of fullness rather than need. As you keep moving forward, you'll realize this whole experience reshaped how you understand love and connection altogether. Love, you come to understand, isn't about constant intensity or emotional highs and lows. It's about safety, clarity, and being genuinely present with someone. It's about being able to show up fully as yourself without fear of being misunderstood or dismissed. This understanding helps you recognize healthier connections whenever they show up in your life. You become more patient with new beginnings and more accepting of endings when they come. You no longer cling to what's uncertain, and you no longer resist what's already complete. You honor each chapter of your life for what it taught you, rather than for how long it happened to last. This mindset gives you a real sense of emotional freedom. You feel lighter, not because you care less about things, but because you're no longer carrying emotional weight that was never actually yours to hold in the first place. As days turn into weeks and weeks eventually turn into months, you might look back and realize just how far you've actually come, even without noticing every individual step along the way. The version of you who once questioned everything now trusts deeply. The version of you who once waited anxiously now moves through life calmly. The version of you who once doubted their own inner voice now listens to it with genuine respect. This kind of growth is quiet, but it's absolutely real. It shows up in the way you choose peace over drama, clarity over confusion, and honesty over avoidance. You don't need outside validation for this growth anymore. You feel it in your body, in your thoughts, and in the decisions you make every day. And as you continue living from this grounded place, you stay open to connection without becoming dependent on it. You welcome honesty when it shows up, but you don't chase after it. You allow yourself to feel things fully, but you don't let those feelings overpower your sense of self. You understand now that real connection never requires you to abandon your intuition or silence your own needs. Real connection meets you exactly where you are, respects your boundaries, and grows naturally with time. This awareness stays with you, guiding you gently through whatever comes next. You move forward not with certainty about outcomes, but with genuine trust in yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation for everything you go on to build from here. As you continue along this path, something even deeper begins settling within you. Something that can't be rushed or forced into existence, only lived and experienced over time. You start to notice that your sense of self no longer shifts based on how other people respond to you. Where you once might have searched for reassurance in someone's words, tone, or behavior, you now find that same reassurance sitting inside your own awareness. You feel steady even when a situation stays unclear because you understand by now that clarity was never what defined your worth or your direction in the first place. This doesn't mean you stop caring or stop feeling things deeply. It simply means you stop attaching your peace to outcomes you were never able to control in the first place. You move through life with a quiet certainty that whatever unfolds isn't going to break you because you've already learned how to hold yourself steady through uncertainty. That creates a lasting sense of inner safety that follows you everywhere you go. You trust yourself enough to walk away when something no longer aligns with who you are, and you trust yourself enough to stay present when something feels genuinely honest and mutual. That balance is what allows you to engage fully with life without the fear of losing yourself along the way. You might notice your emotional reactions feeling softer now, not because you've become disconnected from your feelings, but because you're no longer operating from old wounds or unresolved tension underneath the surface. When something hurts, you're able to acknowledge it without letting it define you completely. And when something brings you joy, you're able to allow that joy fully without clinging to it out of fear that it won't last.